When Steve asked me to do this presentation a couple years ago, I'm like, really? Who the hell wants to listen to me yammer on about how we model data at the state? And after we started talking about it for a while, I'm like, you know what? This is actually the kind of presentation I want to see when I come here, because I want to see how other organizations handle the problems that we have. You know, how do you model sentences? How do you model phrases? How do you model acknowledgements? You know, how do you model words that mean different things or different words that mean the same thing? So that's why I built this. Besides, it's I bothered him at an EDW a couple of years ago, and because I bothered him, he bothered me to do this. So it's like, okay, be careful who you bother, because then they rope you into things. Because I do that with other presenters too. I wasn't able to go to EDW in San Diego this past year, but there was a couple of presentations that I was interested in. So through my deductive reasoning and things, I was able to get the phone number of the individual in Texas that was giving the presentation in San Diego. So I called him. Might have scared him a little bit, but he had answered, and you know, we set up a time and he actually answered all my questions I had about his presentation because I wasn't able to attend. So it was nice, because again, it's a lot of these individuals are very open with the information they have. It's like open source, and like we're more than willing to answer questions because we're here to learn, and I'm here to help other individuals learn and maybe not make the same mistakes we make. But, so what we're going to do today, okay, this is Steve's clicker. It was working earlier. I don't know why it's not working now. So what we're going to go over today is why you should never bring a banana on a boat, and then who I am and why I was, roped into doing this, the environment of the Bureau, what our electronic footprint is and why we do the things we do. Then we're going to get into some modeling fun, and that's the operative F word you're going to hear a lot today. So I will warn you ahead of time, since I am law enforcement and do work with a lot of cops, they swear a lot. So it's kind of embedded into me as well. So they will slip out, and I apologize ahead of time. And then we're going to go talk about how and what things we've done to actually get better at attempting to model our data and develop or design before we develop. So my name is Brad Snipke. Thanks for coming. I have been an analyst for over 20 years, and pick any other name to throw in front of that. Systems, business, technical, business systems, technical, business, business, technical. Whatever company decides to call it. But for the last 6 years, I've been the systems architect, primarily focusing on data for the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. And the easiest, well, I'll get into that too. But I wanted to say that I don't think you're alone. We're all in the same boat. We all have the same problems. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to give this talk and presentation, is that I think we have the same problems and issues with data in identifying it, defining it. And one of the things I think a lot of our stakeholders have, it's not an enterprise view. I think they have a lack of enterprise view. Most of them are focused on the product they're working on, the project they're working on, and don't take into consideration the entire organization or the entire agency, or this system has the same set of data and they've already called it this and defined it this, but you know what? I'm special. I'm not going to call it that. We want to call it this. I'm like, boy, they used it for 20 years. Why do you think you're special? And it's like, those are the fights that we have, or I shouldn't say fights, I should say discussions. One of the biggest challenges that I run into is they always say there's no time. We don't have time to do this. We don't have time to do that. And most of the time when you're building software, it's quality assurance is the thing that gets cut, or the upfront design gets cut. Because it's just, well, we got to get it out the door. We have this deadline, we have this timeline, we have to get it out the door. And we have probably different restrictions or constraints than most of you guys do, because you're probably in the corporate world, making money with your products and products. We don't make any money. We don't sell anything. So I like coming to these conferences. You do? So yeah, we don't make a profit. We take money. Oh yeah, we take money. But we don't have a product that we sell, and we have the smart people on the Hill, I like to call them, the senators and representatives that make up, this is what you're doing. Oh, now you need money to, right, fine, whatever, now here's your money to go build it. But we have legislative mandates that this is when we have to get it done, and they don't always take into consideration, what is it gonna take to get it done? It's like, no, here's millions of dollars, build it. Today's what, Wednesday? Yeah, you got till Friday. So again, like I said earlier, some of the things I'm interested in hearing and seeing is how other individuals model, things like sentences, acknowledgments. There's a form on your table that we're actually going to model, and when we're done with this, all of you will be registered as sex offenders. I hope that's okay. But it's just a classroom exercise. But since you've already touched the pieces of paper, now I got your epiphilia, so I'm good. I don't need really anything more than that. But this form actually shows you examples of there's different terms with the same meaning and the same term with different meanings. And as one of our efforts, what we actually did is I did model this with the business, and we turned it electronic instead of a paper form. Because in the old days, everything this department did, our predatory offender registry, everything was paper-based. Everything they did, because it was a legal contract that is required to be signed by these individuals that they are sex offenders or predatory offenders, and everything is a contract according to the state. And then the fun thing is the confusing terms. Then this is stuff I'm still working on the business with to, like, you called it what? I'm like, I don't even know what that is. And what's the definition of it? Well, we don't know. Like, well, okay, if you don't know what it is, why are we using it? And if you don't know what it is, how about we change it to something that actually makes sense? So that's one thing I'm working with the business as well, to actually get them to have that kind of understanding that, yeah, we get the data from other agencies or organizations, and they call it that, that's fine, don't care what they call it. We can change the name to something that makes sense to us, so we know what it is, and then when we turn around and give it back to them, we can change it back to their stupid name. So like I said, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehensions is a state law enforcement agency. The easiest way to explain it is every state has one, and they are basically the FBI for the state. So, and we are a clearinghouse. Every law enforcement agency in the state is required by state and federal law to send their data to us. And then we in turn send it to multiple different places like the FBI, DEA, Canada, Mexico, Interpol, every other state, every other BCA's equivalency in their state. So in the BCA, we have 4 divisions. 3 of them actually create and maintain their own set of data. So we have our investigations division of the BCA, where we have our agents that they primarily investigate murders, officer-involved shootings, use of force, because that one's been quite popular lately with the advent of everyone having a cell phone and everyone having a camera on their cell phone. And then they also just help out smaller agencies that don't have a police force or have a very small police force and don't have enough resources to, track their crime or investigate their own crimes. We have our laboratory services, which is like the TV shows you see, CSI and Criminal Minds, where they actually do all of the forensics inside the building. And again, all of the state agencies or local law enforcement agencies are required by state law to send their evidence to the Bureau to have it investigated, especially if it was a high-profile crime, a murder, homicide, rape. All of that data has to come to the BCA to be analyzed. And then we have the department I'm in, our Mingus Information System. So we are the department that builds and manages and maintains all of the computer systems and all the applications that store the data, receive the data, send the data. And then we also have our Business Shared Services division. They're an administrative part of the BCA that manages our human resources and our payroll and the stuff we do to do our jobs. So the fun thing we have is we have many standards that we have to adhere to, and a lot of these we don't own. So we have a very complicated information or our electronic footprint because we don't own the data that's coming to us. We're just the clearinghouse for it. We're just the repository that stores it. So we have some national standards that we have to adhere to, and I'm not sure if anyone has ever heard of NIEM, National Information Exchange Model. It's gaining ground that it's attempting to be everything to everyone because it's an information exchange. It's XML and JSON, and it's broken up into like 17 different domains, where law enforcement is one of the domains, maritime is a domain, medical is a domain, so that they try and have their own standardized set of terminology and code value pairs. We have a lot of federal requirements and standards, so based on NEAM, the FBI creates a bunch of their own programs that we have to adhere to that have their own set of data and rules and requirements to adhere to. UCR is Uniform Crime Reporting. Every state in the nation is required to send data to the feds so that they can do a national crime reporting. So like, here's the number of murders, here's the number of homicides, here's the number of arsons, and so on and so forth. NIBRS is a national incident-based reporting system. So it's the system that's used to gather the data for UCR. NCIC is the National Crime Information Center. It is the agency of the FBI that is charged with gathering all the data from all the states. And then III is Interstate Identification Index. It's what they use to identify individuals. NGI is the next generation of III. They haven't merged there yet, but it's next generation III. And EBTS is the transformation method we use to send biometrics. So it's electronic biometric transmission service. So we use it to send fingerprints, palm prints, side prints, iris, and facial recognition. And then NLETS is a national law enforcement telecommunication switch. The one in our state handles, I don't know, 1 million transactions every few hours, because every state will send you data. Like, you get pulled over in another state and you're from a different state, they will send a message to that state saying, hey, I need the driver's license information of so-and-so or so-and-so. And through this national information exchange, we send that kind of data back and forth all the time. And then we have a lot of state agencies and state standards we have to adhere to, because we communicate with the courts and every law enforcement agency, corrections, probation, and they have their own set of terminology that they have to use and adhere to. And then we have our industry standards. You know, the laboratory's got a lot of really crazy terms that we have to use, and like, I don't even try to understand the terms I use. I'm just like, just give me a definition, I'm good. I'm like, I can't even say that word, but okay, I believe you. And investigations, and then a lot of our technology. So since we are a state agency, we don't have a lot of the first two. Most of our stuff is older. We have a lot of CSVs going back and forth. We have a lot of flat files going back and forth. We have a lot of ./ but we are moving towards XML and JSON. We're just slow. The FBI has a development and release cycle that is optimistically 6 months to 18 months. And it's usually towards